We need to work at providing people with opportunities to engage in things that they find interesting, to have an interesting life. Huge one. You don't value me. I go back to the lady who didn't speak to anybody in who knows how many years because they didn't care about her. She got the message that what she had to say didn't matter. You don't value me. Another story, although this was just a few years ago. There's a lady living in a little studio-type place, and there were several others right in the same area. And the staff loved her very much. And it was mostly women staff at this program, as in many of the programs. I was called in because she was throwing things at her staff. She was throwing things at them with no precipitant, just out of the blue. So I went into her house, and she knew I was coming, and I met her. I said, "Hi, Mary, nice to meet you." And she was sitting over at that end of the sofa, and I said, "Okay if I sit at this end of the sofa and just sort of take in the scene?" She said, "Sure." And she was very slow, psychomotor, very slow. Her movements were slow. Articulation was good, but she was slow. So I sat there, and I saw several staff, 2 or 3 at a time, were in the apartment with their list of things to do. And they would at times talk to Mary, but mostly talking to each other. And then this one staff person that Mary really liked, she was doing something, and I guess she washed a couple of things through the sink and put them in the thing. And then she said, "Oh, I got to go. Bye, Mary." And she waved goodbye, and then went out the door and went past the picture window. And then Mary picked up an object off her table next to the sofa and threw it at the other staff people. And they had no idea what had occurred. Well, from my perspective, what I saw occurred was, as her favorite staff person said goodbye, by the time Mary got her hand up to say goodbye, this staff person was going out the door and didn't see Mary's hand waving. And then the staff person went by the window, and Mary tried again to say goodbye, and the staff person didn't respond. So Mary became very angry and threw an object at the other staff. You don't value me. That was the basic notion. I mean, the feeling that I had was that what was being communicated, and they didn't realize it. And so we did some role plays. I did some role plays with the staff, and we developed a protocol. When you go into Mary's house, and you're going to say goodbye to Mary, you say goodbye, and you wait for Mary to wave back at you. And when you go to the door, you turn again, and you say goodbye. And if you go past the picture window, you stop at the picture window and say goodbye, and wait for Mary to respond. And what I was getting across to them is one of the take-home messages is when you work with people with developmental disabilities, you need to go slower. Most of the people we support, you need to go slower with them because they don't react as quickly many times. Okay? I don't know how to tell you what I need. Huge. Communication deficits are a big part of what goes on with people with developmental disabilities. And they don't know how to tell you what they need. They don't know how to get it across to us. And another little story, I was just lucky with this one. I met with the case manager, the mother, the son. The son was developmentally disabled, and myself, and he was nonverbal. And mother was saying how frustrating it was because he was nonverbal. And he didn't seem to respond by shaking his head or anything like that, yes or no. And I don't know. Somebody was watching over. Because I just had this flash, and I took a piece of paper. And I wrote on it yes, and put a circle around it, and no. And I turned it to him. I said, "Can you read that?" And he pointed yes. He couldn't shake his head, and his mother didn't even know that. So that just opened up all sorts of communication. We had a whole bunch of questions that went back and forth. And at one point, he went like this. I said, "Oh, okay." And I put maybe in the middle. And he said, "Yeah, maybe." Like that. So we have to work at figuring out ways to help our people communicate. It's huge. Another huge one is My Body Hurts. One of my mentors, Ruth Ryan, she's a psychiatrist who used to work out of Colorado. She's now out on the East Coast somewhere. She worked in Colorado for 18 years, and during those 18 years, she kept records on over 4,000 people who she had worked with, and she worked with people with complex needs, people with challenging behaviors. And what she found, and it's in her works and in her personal communication to me, in 3 out of 4 cases, 75% of the time, people with challenging behaviors, there's an undiagnosed medical condition that contributes significantly to the challenging behavior. Pain. 75% of the time in the cases that she worked with. That's a huge issue. People with developmental disabilities, they have more medical problems than you and I, and they have more unusual medical problems. And they tend to get, you know, the 15-minute coupon, right? So we need to work at maximizing the utilization of that. We'll talk more about that as we go along here. Okay, so what are some of the things we can do? We ask the person and their supporter what the person needs to be happy. This is not rocket science. Okay? Another case, situation. Fellow was eloping. He was running away from his apartment, which was a very nice, clean apartment. And so they asked me to come take a look. So I walk in, and I see there's a stack of videotapes. And I said, oh, hey, what's your favorite videotape? And he said, oh, that one on boats. And I said, gee, would you like to put it on? We'll take a little look at that. And I was going to spend some time there with him. He said, oh, the VCR is broken. VCR is broken. It's been broken for a while, and it does turn out that it happens to have been broken about when he started going eloping. But so anyway, the way the story goes, we sat down at the table, at his kitchen table, and there was one of the staff. There was actually 2 staff, him and me, and we said, what does he need to be happy? And it was interesting. Of course, we put that on the list of VCR, get it fixed. Another thing, he really wished that he could have a computer. He didn't need to get on the internet, but he used to play games on computers, and he wanted. So we actually, for $45 at St. Vincent de Paul, we got a computer, a 486, and we got donated games and things, and he even got one of those game controllers for it, and then he had in times previous, he had a gerbil. Well, that took a little longer to get. Took about 6 weeks. Had to talk to the landlord, all sorts of things. Anyway, he gets the gerbil. He gets a computer. We got a new VCR because they were real cheap then. They were still making them. Anyway, and he stopped eloping. And in fact, he started having friends over to play on the computer. And after work, he had to get home to change the water for his gerbil and to play with his gerbil and do all this kind of thing. So basically, the meaning of his challenging behavior was, I'm living in this boring place with nothing to do. So I'm going to go find something to do. You know? And it was really interesting that once that happened, and one of the male staff members who worked with him started seeing him differently. I think as more of a person. Because what evolved was they spent time watching the videotapes and talking, and and he was and playing games on the computer with them. In amongst some of the eloping, he had been going over towards the high school that he had been away from for a couple of years, because he was in his early 20s and he had aged out and all that kind of thing. Okay. Anyway, so it turns out there was this girl that he knew there that he really wished he could have contact with. Well, this guy takes the name, finds out she was a client, and got the message through the case manager to the other case manager that he would like to have contact, and here's his phone number. Well, the young lady called him, and they went out to the show. And this guy then, they rehearsed about what you do, and you buy her popcorn, you don't buy her, all this kind of thing. So they go to the movie, right? And then he comes back home. And he doesn't say anything. And so, long story short, he says, oh, no, we don't like each other. It was all right to go to the movie, but we don't want to see each other again. But how wonderful. I mean, we all have that person or persons that we didn't ask out, right? Right? Those are the things we regret, right? Well, this staff person took the time, the humanness and connection to help this person get through that. And what do you think happened to their relationship? You think he was hitting the staff person? No. So you see, your biggest support is you as a human being. supporting another human being, and showing them respect and compassion and kindness, and helping, understanding what the real issues are with them, just like a good friend. Find out who the person counts on in a pinch. I do this all the time. I go in, he's hitting people, he's hitting people. Oh, is there anybody he doesn't hit? Well, he doesn't hit Joe. Joe works on the afternoon shift. And I said, well, okay, let's see, it's about 11 o'clock. I'll be back at 2:30 because I got to meet Joe. Joe's got the answer. Or at least he has an answer. Sometimes it's just Joe. But much more often, Joe really likes this person, has developed a good relationship with this person, and the client feels respected by this person. And we need to figure out ways to generalize that to other staff contacts.